Hey, Chris.
Welcome, folks, to this week's edition of Tech Sales Advice. I am, of course, your host, Chris White. This is the LinkedIn Live program for technical sales professionals and technical sales leaders. And folks, these are live conversations. Here we are, Tuesday, March 10th. We just passed noon here on the Eastern time zone. And as I like to say, these conversations are by design, unscripted, unrehearsed, and unpredictable. And today's conversation is no stranger to the technical sales profession. In fact, now you had a podcast called Three Peas in a Podcast.
Well, that was the fun thing. Two peas in a pod. Two pre-sales in a pod. But of course, there were three of us.
There were two. Okay, that's what threw me up. Okay, so once upon a time it was two pre-sales in a pod, but there were three.
Then it was three, and then sometimes four.
Right. One of them has since retired, and now you have moved into the world of demo automation. Folks, you know who this guy is. His name is Mark Green. And yes, it's not. We probably should have done this on St. Patrick's Day, because green and white would have been a good combination. But nonetheless,
it's a good background, isn't it? Yes.
It is a green background. He is currently the director of strategic customer success, EMEA, with Consensus. He is a lifelong pre-sales and sales engineer expert, and he's been immersed in demo automation for 6 years. And one of the things we're going to be talking about today is his role now of, quote, cutting the spin and leveling the people about what's real and what's not, what's Memorex and what's not, as we used to say, and the good, the bad, and the ugly where demo automation is concerned. That was a long-winded introduction, Mark. Welcome.
Wow,
thank you so much for being here. By the way, this is a long time coming. I think you and I have been talking about this for about 5 years. So it's great to actually have you on the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Very well. Very well. Thank you for having me on, and welcome to everybody joining out in the LinkedIn space. It's wonderful to be here. And yeah, good, bad, and the ugly. We're going to cover that. And definitely, my role has changed, by the way. So we're here on a celebration. This is the week after my 4-year tenure at Consensus, and 6 years in total using Consensus. Of course, the first 2 was back at Sage. But I'm not here to talk about Consensus today. I've just mentioned it 3 times. I know that's enough for now. Really, it's about the fact that, well, yes, you say he's done a lifetime in pre-sales. I realized it was 25 years ago,
Wow.
and maybe a little bit more, that I started talking tech to people. And so there's been some change in that time. And certainly what I find myself doing now is leveling with people. People just want to cut the spin. There's a lot of advertising. There's adverts in everything. And just like pre-sales are the authentic voice, having now done demo automation and sort of technology pre-sales, the technology of pre-sales for many years, people just want to see where I've gone wrong. The bad bits, the ugly bits, the bits that aren't on the marketing website. They obviously want to see the good stuff too, and I want to make sure that they do that. But there's a balance, and we're all realists. We have to work through new ideas to people, and sometimes it's hard. So I'm really, really happy that I've changed from running the pre-sales and buyer enablement team across now looking after Consensus in EMEA as a real strategic push, and loving it. Absolutely loving it. And you're right, Chris. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really glad that we're here together today.
Well, and honestly, I mean, I can already tell. Like, I almost could jump over to the passenger seat and just let you drive today's conversation, which I absolutely love. It takes a little pressure off of me. I did have one very, very real time inspiration, because you mentioned some of the hype. So before we get into the reality, the good, bad, and the ugly, let's just take one half a step back. And if I were somebody relatively new to demo automation, and I were reading all the marketing material, and I was sort of buying into all the hype, as you said, what might I be led to believe, or what might I believe that may or may not be as accurate as the reality of demo automation?
Well, that's lovely. So yes, that's a good insight. What's the thing that everyone's thinking, yeah, but what are you not telling us? And I think it is that work still has to get done. It's a common misconception that automation is going to take our jobs.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, it does change what you do, but you're still busy. And then when you're being busy, there's some good things that you can be doing. And the ugly truth is that if you think you can just put it in and then sit back and the money's going to start rolling in.
Right. It's just a printing machine.
I mean, it's close to a printing machine, but you still got to tend to it.
Yeah.
Imagine it as you've got some incredibly well-engineered seeds. You only need to throw them into the field. You still have to tend to them and work out, make sure that you know what you're growing and harvest it in the end. You can't just throw it out and expect it to work. That being said, a lot of people end up focusing on the wrong thing. A lot of people come to me. Here's a good example. A lot of people say, oh, no, our product's far too technical. Far too technical. You could never put what we do in a click-through tour or in a video or simulation. But what's interesting is that misses the point. You're still going to have to do the demo. You're still going to have to do the good, the deep consultative work on being a solutions consultant.
Yeah.
It's just the people that turn up the meeting might be a little bit better informed, and you're going to send them home with a present. That's really the thing. Great things can happen, but you just got to put some work in, and it's great.
It reminds me of something I used to say years ago. So to set context, when I was in the field selling as a sales engineer and an account executive, once upon a time, I sold enterprise architecture platforms, and I was with a couple different companies. And I used to get certain questions. And one of the things we used to do was this as is and to be and IT transition plans and all this. And I used to get certain questions, and there was almost a perception of, well, once we just define the as and to be, can't we just like push a button like that? Doesn't it just sort of magically happen? Mm-hmm. And I used to say to people, well, there is some point where the software stops and the smart people start. Right? Like the tool can only do so much. To your point, it doesn't remove work. It just changes what we do. So now, by the way, Mark, I want to be respectful of the audience that we have out there, because
absolutely we do.
Worth asking. So, and by the way, folks, if you do, first of all, we don't see who's out there. So if you do care to say hello to myself or Mark, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions, please feel free to do so. I encourage you to aim them at Mark, because he's the special guest and he's the expert.
Lay them on me, folks.
Yes, throw it on him. Now, we did get a guest from Rich Polton. He's actually a member of the Six Habits community, and he talks a lot like you. You two might even be from the same town, as far as I know. Rich asks a very good question. I figured we'd get here eventually, but he's going to throw it right up in front. How much do you see AI changing data automation? Rich, it's nice to see you. Thank you for the question.
AI is obviously a hot topic, and so we're finding it's coming up all over the place. What I see as the biggest change in demo automation is the way in which, firstly, the people that send anything out, and then the people that consume that stuff. So first off, how do you know what to send? Historically, you've relied on the salesperson understanding what it is that the person they're interacting with, their main point of contact, wants to see. Unfortunately for them, the stakeholder group is varied, very, very varied, and not just the person that they're talking to, which often gatekeeps. And so understanding the other people in that business is really difficult. The way that you can use AI for that then is build a profile of who you're sending it to and what it is that you can send. Now, I said this wasn't about consensus. So let's just imagine that there's a company with a hexagonal logo that could help here, but MCP, so Model Context Protocol by Anthropic, wonderful thing, connects all your agents. Pick whichever agent you want, pick Claude, for example. We've connected it to many things. So we connected it to Gong, HubSpot, Consensus, and a bunch of other things, so that we can say, this customer, tell us what I should send. And it goes through and it profiles through all the previous conversations, all the ones that maybe you haven't had, but other people, because you should be multi-threading, all of those conversations and the interactions through email, all logged. What's the next best action? And that's come through not based on an algorithm that we make. It's based on the data that you've got. It's your own Gong data. It's your own CRM data. That's then looking into the content that you've got and creating these product experiences to help the seller and those other stakeholders. That power is in the seller's hands. Of course, the next inevitable step is to put it into the buyer's hands so they can self-serve their way through whilst keeping it relevant to their project. So AI is absolutely powerful. But I think the most powerful thing is this combination of data that's coming from different places to build a picture of that next best action.
What's interesting to me is
thanks, Rich, for the question.
Yeah, good question, Rich. What's interesting to me is you didn't say anything about the creation side of assets. So is AI being used also on the creation side, or is it mostly just in once you've got assets created?
Absolutely it is. But but that's 6 months old now. Come on, everybody, keep up.
That's two yesterday. Is that what you're telling me?
It's table stakes now. If you're not using AI to help sharpen your content, even if it can't create it from scratch, it can sharpen it really, really well. You've got something in Finnish and you need it in German. Bing, bonk, done. You need something that was recorded in a noisy place or just by someone that's great. Imagine, so we use like for integrations, an amazing integrations team. They're not trained to be wonderful in front of the camera. So just get what they've recorded, bing, bonk, done. And then suddenly you've got this really presentable thing. It's not built for those trust makers, those moments where someone's trying to understand and build trust with an organization. But if you want a video version of a PDF, because everyone wants everything, 83% of the internet is video now, then absolutely. But really, like that was 6 months, a year ago.
Amazing.
Now we're connecting up all our data with AI.
We can spend the entire hour just talking about AI. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So you're working with customers now. You're not on the sales side per se. You're really, and you mentioned this, you're responsible for, quote, delivering on all the promises that has been made by sales and pre-sales.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So walk us through a typical situation. You're in meeting with a customer and you're trying to cut the spin and level with people. What are some of the conversations you're having around, quote, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yes. So I have moved across post-sale, and it's a fascinating place. Turns out it's very similar to what we've been doing already. Only the exciting thing is a lot of it before was theory. In terms of this is what will happen.
This is what's possible. We love talking about the art of the possible, right?
Exactly, especially for new business. Of course, for existing customers, then we're obviously helping them adapt and adopt. But we've got, so now on the other side, post-sale, using the experience that I've had and the experience of all of our other customers, really helping people make the right decisions and not make the wrong decisions. So good, bad, and ugly. What's a wrong decision? Well, one wrong decision is whatever you're sending out. And this applies to any form of medium, whether it's video, tours, a PDF. Let's level with a PDF. You create a bunch of PDFs and they communicate wonderful parts of your just services or products?
I've got PDFs, sure.
How often do you think products change though? And so when we have monthly updates, so there's suddenly it's all out of date. So the mistake that people do is create hundreds and hundreds of these of product experiences, and then next month they run out of date. Now that's perhaps a little over the top, but it still rings true that keeping it simple not only makes the life easier for buyers as they move through the funnel to understand what it is that the vendor does, but it makes it simple for the people making it as well. And so that's really nice. Having things that you can update without having to redo everything, that's also good. So being able to edit and update what you've got, that's important. But so the first bit of the ugly is don't forget to keep things nice and fresh.
Well, and part of what I hear you saying, and I am certain that I would be guilty of this. And I, like most people in this profession, I love technology. I love new tools, and I love fun technology. And to me, and yes, Mark, it is perfectly okay for us to talk about Consensus because that's who you work for. I would love to get my hands on Consensus and just go crazy. And I can see building all kinds of demo assets. But the point you're making is a really important point, which is you might want to pump the brakes on creating a massive inventory of demo or assets, because they may very well become outdated and obsolete, if not within 6 months, certainly within 12 months. So
experience now tells us that you have to build what the buyers need. So take a slice through your funnel. At that moment, what are you providing for your buyers? Is it just after the BDR call and they're sat around waiting for the sales call or for the next meeting that you planned in? Even if it's the next day, that's a whole day while they're in the project of deciding which vendor to go for. And so if you're not providing them something there, focus on what are they doing. So you don't need to give them 4 million options. You need to give them the thing that moves them through your funnel, helping them learn and getting them to the meeting, the pre-sales demo that is still incredibly valuable, that consultative moment. Right. And then afterwards, you've got demos for all sorts of things. But some of them could just be in your knowledge base. It's a how to click, 5 clicks. Doesn't really need a video to do that. Sure, you could do, but is that really helping the buyer? What we're here to do is change business, not just create a bunch of noise. And so when we look at it through the buyer's lens and how are we going to help business, it's suddenly just becomes simple.
So you're suggesting that we should really think through what does the buyer need to make a better decision? That I think that's what you're saying, and it's just right?
Yeah, because you've got different stakeholders, right? So you've got different people moving through the funnel, and they all arrive at different times. Everyone thinks they all arrive through the website, through the top of the funnel, but they don't. IT arrives at the end to go, excuse me, stop now.
Exactly.
The
IT,
legal
security,
Why are you not sending this is our likely red lines to the legal team 3 weeks before? Why do you wait until the week of the end of the quarter? Usually because your legal team are busy being legal people. They're very costly. Why not get them to record something that you can send 3 weeks in advance and cut out that whole red line length in the sales cycle?
Brilliant. Mark, I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging some questions. So we got one question about vendors in the space that we're going to come back to in a moment. We don't see who that is, but Rich asked another question that fits this part of the conversation. Do you see demo automation as best used pre-live conversation or post-live conversation? Now, I have a hunch where you're going to go with your answer, but I want to give you the floor, sir. How might you respond to Rich's question?
Pre-live and post-live. You can well imagine my answer was going to be yes, both. However, it's really important that we understand the word demo. Because for many, 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 many years, a demo was a thing a person did. Let's reframe it slightly and replace that with product experiences. You could call it a demo, but what it helps us do is understand that maybe that pre-sales consultative interactive moment where we've worked and we've done our discovery call, we're replaying back to the customer all their value messages through the product, making it come to life. Why haven't we provided an opportunity for them to experience something even about the product, maybe about the vendor themselves, and then afterwards, is there anything in your tool belt that you can give to them as a present on the way home that they can share with other people that maybe weren't relevant to people in the meeting? So I think both.
Such a good, it's really, you really have me thinking now, why don't I have more quote, because I don't sell software, but I sell services. I should probably have some quote product experience videos or service experience videos that I can send people.
Well, yeah, because I mean, so this book, I've got to plug it. We all know Garin.
Of course.
What a legend. This changed my life and my career, seriously. However, the concept doesn't require software or demo automation. It is just about enabling the people that are buying something to do that easily. And so, yes, if you're selling services, they're not just going to find you and go, well, there you go, here's all my money. They're going to look up something else. And we find that 83% of the time buyers, according to Gartner, are off doing something else. They're not spending it with vendors. So they only get 17% of the time with them. And that you've got to share between all the other vendors.
As I like to say, we sell for a living. They don't buy for a living.
Absolutely. I will comment on, I did see another question pop through about consolidation of
whoever asked this question. Yes.
Consolidation in the future, where the consolidation will happen is the data layer. So I know I'm showing my age of my old Cisco OSI model, but I still think of the presentation layer and the data layer and all the rest of it. But the consolidation will be in the data layer, the standardization across the buying journey. In fact, I was just talking at lunch with a sales leader today about the different departments that are being serviced, that buyers move through. They have to have a consolidated buyer journey, which you're tracking, to how to get that intent data from wherever they are. And so you've got the continuity of message through those often siloed departments. Now, the tech stack for demo automation, the types of experiences, we've consolidated all the ones we can find into our product. You've, I don't know, go to the website, it's all there. But the combination of go-to-market, it still includes Gong type tools, HubSpots, you've got CRMs, you've got outreach, marketing. MarTech is a massive thing. So you need to plug into MarTech and use their lead form, consume that into our one, and then you never see our one, but the data still drops down into that continuous layer. Couple that with the power that we're only just realizing as a world for AI, and the ability for these sellers to not search their sales world or their marketing world. The AI is dropping down through MCP into that data layer and bringing back the complete picture. I mean, look at RFPs. You can build an RFP tool that understands all of the context of every conversation and email that you've ever had with them. And so that's where the consolidation is.
Interesting.
Which, as a data fan and an ex-technology pre-sales person and an ex-IT guy, I'm a big fan of. You know what? I'm a big fan of data, but so is our VP of sales. They don't run deal reviews based on opinion.
Right.
It's based on irrefutable buyer intent data, and it comes straight from all of these places into a dashboard that is trusted.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing to me. Gong happens to be one of my clients, and I had a meeting with one of their SE leaders a couple of weeks ago, and he was showing me some of the latest and greatest that Gong does in terms of what you're talking about, serving up data and looking across all the history and making recommendations. And when I think about all the tools in the typical stack, right? And you just mentioned CRM, conversation intelligence, demo automation, marketing, and they're all now doing their own AI. And it just seems like the overlap is just growing. I don't know how sales and revenue leaders and revenue ops leaders are going to manage all that. To me, part of the challenge is managing all that data, because now there's so much overlap.
Well, but that's not their problem. So that's not the issue that they'll have. Well, I mean, they'll have that issue, but it will be the lesser issue. It'll be a lesser issue, because the larger issue is usually bad data and the fact that causes the world not to trust what's in there.
Right.
Because as soon as you start letting anyone use a CRM, it's got bad data in there. But that's because you're trying to rely on notes fields, which aren't necessarily captured correctly, drop downs that don't have the right one. So they drop down and they click a different one just because then they get to complete the form and get the thing. Right. So all of this is a problem, and RevOps understands that. And so this shift to buyer intent signals, they call it, means that that's irrefutable. Now, it can be irrefutably wrong if you set it up wrong. So you're right. You've got to get that bit right. But that's a lot easier than the constant training of sales enablement to make sure that people are filling in the right form and doing it right. So, yeah.
So, Mark, let me just push our pause button just for a moment. Folks, I'm speaking with Mark Green. He is the Director of Strategic Customer Success, EMEA, for Consensus. It is literally his job to ensure success of their customers who have invested in demo automation with Consensus. If you just joined us, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. One of the quote mistakes that people make on the bad side, I'm not sure it's ugly, is they create too big of an inventory that's impossible to maintain and keep current. Let's talk through some of the other, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, folks, please feel free to ask. What are some of the let's talk about some good for a moment. What are some of the more notable successes that you are seeing consistently out in the field as you speak with customers?
Well, I've got to start off with the reason I loved this whole industry in the first place, and that is respect. Respect is a commodity. It's unfortunately, when times are really, really tough, people find it harder to take time to say thank you. It's harder to take time off and do something else rather than just the grind. And respect is the thing that I found that when moving into the world of demo automation, partly because of that book, and partly because of putting Consensus into Sage, people respected pre-sales as an industry far more because they were able to quantify and help more than just being in a meeting. You found people less likely to say, hey, thank you for turning up to the meeting. Here's the logos of success that we've had. There you go, pre-sales person. Demo.
Yeah, go do your thing.
And so that's one of the reasons that to this day fires me up. It is the respect that you can get through finding ways to make pre-sales people more impactful across the funnel and measuring it. God, please don't just do it and not measure it, because what a waste. Measuring it and the data underneath is just absolutely fascinating.
So
Yeah.
so I want to double click on two things.
Please do.
For the second will be metrics and what should they be measuring. But the first is you just said something that I think is very important. And it's a little bit counterintuitive. You're saying that demo automation is actually making pre-sales more valuable to the organization. And I think some people think just the opposite. I think some people worry that no, demo automation, that's gonna make me obsolete. That's gonna make me less important. That's gonna take my job away. So help those people who maybe think differently. How does demo automation actually make the pre-sales organization more valuable to the go-to-market team?
Well, it's simple. We have a lot of people trying to track what pre-sales people do in order to show their relevance to an organization. We've got some amazing tools out there. Home Run is one of them. There's lots of others, and they quantify the impact of pre-sales, the return on pre-sales effort. Thanks, Steve. But therefore, what we're trying to do is measure the impact with data. Whatever the inputs are, whether it's a meeting or a presentation or a demo or whatever, the output, the impact of that we have to measure, and that's the impact that we have. Now, imagine that that's only restricted to the number of hours you've got in your calendar. The maximum that you can apply in benefit to an organization is the number of hours you have in a week. And remember, half of those are prep, and the other half, hopefully, are learning, feedback, other types of training, collaboration, and maybe lunch. So that's the maximum impact that one person can have. How do you make that one person more impactful? You give them a tool belt of abilities in their live meetings. So suddenly they can do more than the sum of their parts. Maybe they're not an expert in that thing that's only just got launched, but they can still provide that to the buyer. So they are the mechanism that is making that change. And then, well, I mean, we found like 40% leaders watch content in the weekends. Well, unless we're wanting to make pre-sales work weekends, that would be very unpopular. Pre-sales who've recorded that great content are having an impact way outside both their demand gap, so that's how much time they have, the gap between how much time they have and how much time the buyers want, and the activity gap, which is the gap between what they're able to do and what the buyers wish they could.
Yeah. So it's really an amplifier, is what you're saying. It's a pre-sales amplifier.
So much. And because when someone clicks and that data comes through to your CRM, you connect it straight to revenue. And again, it's irrefutable evidence. It's not trying to persuade sales leaders that these pre-sales metrics are something useful. It is, we had this impact on your deals. It's in black and white. It's already in your dashboard.
And it takes the guess. It takes the guess.
I'm surprised how much I love this when I talk about it, but it's a proper passion. Absolutely is.
As it should be. So we've talked a little bit about the good. It's an amplifier for pre-sales. Let's talk about some of the mistakes, some of the bad, some of the mistakes that you've seen. Maybe some organizations make, maybe some oversights, some misgivings, etc.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start off with one that I made.
Okay.
So when and a shout out to Alex Watson, pre-sales leader to the stars. He's amazing and still at Sage. And when I brought it in, I understood that the power of consensus was scaling. So I thought everything had to be scaling. Make it once, send it to many, which of course it is still true. But he said, well, why don't we just also record those custom demos that we've spent ages doing with the customer, put that in. Of course, it has to be a scaling thing. The project was called Digital Scaling. And he said, Mark, let's try it. Oh, right then. Okay. And you know what? We did all of this scaling work and people using that. But the thing that people came back to the most, the revisit, was that custom demo that we did once, because long tender processes, people forget what company did that cool thing. Well, they can go back then and do that. So that's a mistake that I made. He was right, I was wrong, and it ended up okay at the end. I see we've got another question. So why don't we dive into that?
Yeah.
And Rich, I'd love to know. I've just looked you up. Are you in Travis County, Texas? I love Texas. My brother lives there.
He's a Brit living in Texas.
Really? Really?
Yes, that's why I said I was not kidding. He sounds a lot like you.
Demo automation of the product experience tool can be for the whole org. Enablement, CS, not just sales, pre-sales. The whole org can help pay for it. Well, they can, yes. We found a while back that it was more difficult because it was fairly new in the world. I mean, Consensus has been around for 14 years now, but we started off with pre-sales. But now we're finding that it's all over marketing, it's all over channel. It's because channel sellers need updating. They're not going to constantly get trained on the new software. So yes, so you're right, Rich. It is for lots and lots of different parts of the organization. Can the whole org pay for it? I would say, if they're willing to, fine. Don't turn down free money. But at the same time, the power, I think, comes from within pre-sales. So I think if pre-sales pay for it, or sales and pre-sales, it kind of comes out the same budget usually anyway, then that's helping impact the wider business. But the benefit, the thanks will go to pre-sales. Yeah.
Do you or have you collectively found that organizations are more successful with the implementation of demo automation if it's owned by one organization over another, like if it's owned by marketing or if it's owned by pre-sales or maybe even rev ops, that there's higher success rates one way or another?
If it's rev ops, is 100%, because it just brings data straight away. Okay. So they love that. That said, rev ops doesn't usually have the budget compared to sales. Sales usually has the sway and the seat at the table, often using decks that rev ops have made for them. But then, it used to be very much pre-sales. I would say that now marketing, sales, and pre-sales can share the burden because they're all going to get the benefit. CS, we do find using it, especially where organizations have quite an active pre-sales motion within their expansion and renewal areas. But just for maintenance of customers, it's certainly a growing market. And as we see, in fact, CS adoption used to be sort of land, expand, go from there, roll out slowly. Because AI and MCP have managed to get data all connected so fast, we're seeing a shift in the way that things are rolled out to really a design and architecture for the whole project and then put it into place. Yeah. And that's a really interesting shift that we could, of course, cover another time if you like.
Are you finding that most organizations start out with one either use case or team that wants to use? So maybe marketing wants click-through demos on the website, or sales decides that they need choose your own adventure demos that sales can send out to prospects, but then they end up using it in other ways, or as a replacement or as a growth strategy, or does it usually sort of stay in?
It depends. It depends who the instigator of the project is. If you've got someone in pre-sales, it's usually that they're going to be trying to solve the kinds of problems that pre-sales have got to do, right? So it's the availability of people and the skills that they've got and the time to do it. Yeah. That said, that all ends up rolling up into, can we get the customer to understand what they need? Will come from us. and move them through the funnel. So if it's at the next level, at the sales leader level or the CRO, they're going to want to make sure, how can we make this change? How can we improve our business with the least amount of spend at the fastest amount of speed and accuracy? So if it comes from them, then they tend to say, well, why are we all not going to do this? They might pick a pilot and roll it out, but that's kind of the overall intention. If it comes from marketing, you'll find that they're going to want those click-through demos. And I don't blame them. They're really interactive. It's wonderful to see. But that same message, again, they're going to want a video in the end because you want to hear from these wonderful people. Absolutely. Like the trailer to the movie they're about to get by buying through their vendor of choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a related question, but before we get there, Rich asked another question, which, and by the way, let me just pause for a moment, folks. I'm speaking to Mark Green. We're probably going another 15 minutes-ish. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We're talking about demo automation. Rich asked, and I know you're a data guy, so I'm sure you'd love talking about metrics, KPIs. Can you cover KPIs you would suggest to measure the impact? I'm assuming the impact of not just pre-sales, but the implementation of demo automation in a pre-sales or go-to-market organization.
Absolutely. So yes, great question. Thank you. So I'm going to focus on 2 KPIs. And the reason I'm going to focus on these 2 is because they're the ones that we presented to the board.
Okay.
Ultimately, is this making a difference in our company? Even at consensus, just sending a demo, not enough.
Not enough.
It needs to have an impact. Okay, so metric number 1 is the number of deals that move through your sales cycle where an automated demo has been viewed or experienced, where they've clicked through something or they've watched something. This is very different to the number of demos you've sent. The analogy earlier, that's like putting 1 million seeds into the field and then just walking away, not really looking at whether or not they're doing anything. Okay, so you need to get people to watch. And if they are, that's the trigger.
And I just want to make sure so it's the number of deals that closed or just the number of deals that involve
it's the deals that have closed. You can split it out by closed won and closed lost.
Okay, perfect.
But that's a little bit like, well, that'll get us into the technical versus overall win argument.
Yep.
Which is a whole other episode. But certainly, so there's the has there been a way for the buyer to interact in a self-service way on this deal? Yes or no? You can't fake it. The second one then is what type of content has influenced the most revenue? So I've literally got a stack ranked sheet in HubSpot. It shows all of our demos, and it shows basically the cheat codes, because it shows the most popular demos that get the most views that influence the most amount of revenue.
Wow. So
if you want to know what influences the most amount of revenue, you have to understand the skew that happens, because at the top of the funnel, there's a lot more. So the one right on the website is always going to be the first one. But as it comes down, it does not naturally progress. It is definitely, you can see what type of content people are interacting with. And therefore, if you want something to close, and we've got enough data across all of our customers now, anonymized, of course, to understand what type of content helps buyers move through. And it's not getting them to watch a lot. Don't give me, oh, they watched loads and loads of content. Really? Why did you make them watch so much?
Right.
To answer their questions. Couldn't you have done that in, like, people watch short reels on their phone. They can consume things so fast these days. Give it to them fast if they want it.
Yeah. So I have a related question. You said what type of content? So what types of content? What is the list of types? Or when you say types, are we really referring to which demo assets? I want to make sure I understand.
Okay, so in the list that I was referring to, it was the specific demo asset. You could look at the top influential piece of content.
Okay.
And it had a dollar figure on it.
Got it.
Okay. However, I also split it out by the type of content. top of funnel, high value message, low detail, middle of funnel, preparatory for the main live demo afterwards, and then end of funnel, confidence inspiring, customer references. The one that's at the top of our list there, because we're enterprise kings, right? I'm being a bit proud for a second. Sorry, it's not very British, and we're, sort any list by enterprise, and boom, it's GDPR, privacy, and data security. That demo closes everything because it's so strong, and because it's something people are scared of.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. There was something else that you said that triggered a thought. When do you find yourself walking into a conversation with a customer, and for whatever reason, there's frustration, not necessarily with consensus per se, but there's frustration that maybe they're not seeing the returns they expected, or they're not seeing the growth or what have you. What is the source of the frustration usually, and what more than likely is the mistake that they've made causing the frustration, or what are they either missing or overlooking?
Yes. Well, so let's remove it from consensus for a moment. Let's have a think about, because I've met a lot of pre-sales leaders, and the variety of software out there, you would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, but I think you would be surprised the number of pieces of software still installed on a computer. And it's just indicative of the fact that we can so often at the top of the market, at the bleeding edge of all sorts of things, forget that a lot of companies take a long time to move. And you'll have pockets that are doing just like fireworks going off and sparkly things. And a lot of those pockets we're talking to, and they get sometimes frustrated by the slower moving parts. Now, we're not here to solve everybody's business. I'm glad that we get to help parts of it and move them on. So I think the most frustrating thing that I come up against are where you've got a really innovative leader, and maybe they've moved in from another business, and they know that they can do great things, but businesses are tough to move sometimes. It takes a little bit of time for them to get the political capital in that business to affect the kind of change that they need. And so really, this is why every conversation that I seem to be having at the moment is around data, because that's something which is very well trusted. And it's fairly surprising, given my ineptitude when it comes to mental arithmetic and maths in general, or math for you American folks. That to one side, it really is the data story that we're telling. Even with the wonderful fireworks of AI and all of the stuff that's happening with that, it's to have an effect. It's to do something good in business.
Yeah. There was one other question that I thought of, and your comment there about the frustration. It sounds like the frustration that you encounter most is their frustration with the organization's inability to move and get things done. Another thought that I had as you were talking about the different groups and the different teams, whether it's the CRO or the RevOps leader or the CMO or the marketing leaders that are pushing this idea of demo automation. Do you ever encounter, or do your clients ever encounter resistance internally from other people that maybe don't buy into this idea of demo automation? And if so, what is usually their resistance? What is it? Because usually that comes from a place of fear, or it comes from a place of disbelief, or for some reason they're threatened. What do you see in that regard, and what's the resistance / hesitancy?
That's a great question. And in fact, it happened the other week. So I was in a sales meeting, and we were there with various people who would be using demo automation, and everyone's on a journey of understanding. And people make assumptions, and people make educated guesses, and at some point they learn, and then they see the benefits. It is interesting, and it's interesting that you say that it can be a very personal thing. Their ability to deliver every month, get their salary, pay their mortgage, pay for their kids' school is based on their ability to deliver what it is that they know how to do. And so if you come in and you say, well, this is a different way of doing it, immediately it's like, okay, let's see, hold on. The conversation actually ended up going really well. We saw that, again, it was a force multiplier. And the things that they particularly liked were things that we still wanted to do. And in fact, we're going to multiply across different areas of the business. But it can take a moment. We live in a world, you live in a world, we've been in this internet connected LinkedIn messaging understanding, and the world has moved on quite fast. A lot of people aren't on LinkedIn. I can't say hello to them because of course they'll never see this, but a lot of people might go on a little bit, but they're not up with all of the latest and greatest.
Right.
I mean, I've got to say, unfortunately, the thing is their businesses and their leadership are up with the latest and greatest, not necessarily with specific tech, but with the speed of the world and the speed of change. And so that speed of change is going to come down through the ranks and need to be found somewhere. And so that's why it's nice that we can get pre-sales the respect they deserve in being those change makers and delivering in lots of different places, in lots of different ways. But using that special pre-sales open honesty and authentic message that we're all known for.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned change makers, change agents. The other thought that I had as I was asking the question was around change management, and the fact that I would imagine a big challenge for your sponsors within organizations is the change management that goes with the implementation of data automation. We're not just talking about implementing a tool, really talking about changing the way the go-to-market team operates, depending on how much they invest in from an implementation perspective, demo automation. I would imagine that's a big challenge. And for some people, that's probably something that they overlook as well.
It's less of a change than you'd think, perhaps, because sure, there's some good fun opportunities to make content and be these change makers, like the content champions that you can assign within your teams. But because you're still doing the normal demos, unless you've got a really high run rate product where CAC was out of whack anyway, in which case you should have seen the writing on the wall. Because you're the ones creating all of the content, those can be serviced automatically. We see a lot of people after the SDR call, the email goes straight away. Thanks for booking with the sales team. Here's something to get you started whilst we wait for the call.
Right.
So I think people are used to a bit of change, and it's not a hard one. Are there problems with the change? I'm struggling to think of some. It's usually that people take a little bit of time to connect it with the value that they bring, a little bit, as we were saying before. But as soon as we help them with that, then then they're like, excellent. Can I have a license immediately, please? I thought of a quick fire one. You don't need to get 100 people to make 100 demos. Just make the best people to make the best demos, and then have 100 people benefit from it.
Love that.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just a video version of an email.
Yeah.
Now that is useful in terms of a one-off thing, like use like Snap plugin. Just click record a hello, show something on the screen, send it off. So that's fine. But if you want to just, that's a new way of interacting, but scaling business. Have your best people make stuff.
Yeah. Well, and every SE leader that I speak to talks about being expected to do, quote, more with less. And people lose somebody and they're not given the rec or permission to fill that void. They just have to do without, right?
Yes, but the more with less. Just
that?
very briefly, the more with less, but very briefly, a pre-sales leader a couple of years ago asked me, well, what's my headcount ratio now to AEs? What's the AE-SE ratio with demo automation? And the problem is it's not calculatable like that. It's not that you need fewer SEs. It's that the SEs have more of an impact on the funnel. So things move through faster. So you may end up having demo automation and moving those deals through. So you may end up needing more live demos because you just got more in the pipeline.
You have more pipe. Yeah. Love that. Excellent. Mark, it has been almost an hour that we've been chatting. Wow. I can't believe how quickly. I know time flies. I would love to have you back. I know we talked about possibly doing something again. Something that we have not talked about at all is what makes for a good recorded demo. And I don't know if that's something you'd be willing to pick apart, but I'd love to pick apart. How do we change the way we actually present or deliver a demo if we're doing it through the recorded medium? So maybe that's a conversation we can pick up. For today, I think it's about time to wrap up. As I like to say, the landing gear is out, the runway is in sight. We're going to land the plane here, seats up and tray tables up. Any final thoughts from you? Anything you were hoping we might cover that we haven't covered before we put a bow on today's conversation?
It's not something that we haven't covered, but it is something I would like to reiterate, which is I love what we're all doing in the industry right now. It is affording respect to pre-sales like nothing before. And we've got the data to prove it. And the data, we've talked about how getting a chair at the table. We might not get that chair at the table, but the data will get the chair and we'll have sales leaders pushing it there. So that's a dream. We're living in the dream.
I always love when my guest closes with a quotable quote, and you just did. We may not get the seat at the table, but the data will. That's a mic drop moment right there. Rich and Sean and some of the other folks who were with us live, thanks for hanging in there with us. It's nice to see that you enjoyed the conversation. I certainly enjoyed the conversation, and as always, when I hear Mark speak, I learned a thing or two. Mark, safe to assume that if anybody out there is not connected with you, you'd welcome them to reach out and connect on LinkedIn.
Please do. Comment down below. Add me on LinkedIn. Let's keep the conversation rolling.
Fantastic. Mark, hang around backstage just for a minute so I can say a proper goodbye. Everyone else, have a good week. I believe I'm off. I believe I'm taking a week off next week. Actually, I can't remember. I might be back next week. I might not be, but I'll see you soon on Tech Sales Advice. Otherwise, have a great week. Thanks all.